excited because I have the Shannon Ables. Is that how you say your last name, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I've always just called you Shannon Ables, and I'm like, oh, what if I'm pronouncing it wrong? I have Shannon Ables. She is the creator of the Simply Luxurious Life blog, and I know that so many of my readers already read her blog and buy your books, and they're a huge fan of yours. So I think this is going to be very exciting for many people. So I just wanted to welcome Shannon to the Daily Connoisseur. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jennifer. Thrilled to be here. And yeah, like you said, I think we have a lot of crossover. And I want to give a shout out to Lauren, who basically of An Organized Life, who kind of said, why don't you guys do this? And I was like, why? That's awesome. That's a great idea.
Oh, yes, she's wonderful. So I have Shannon here. You know, I do this interview series on the channel, and I've had so many wonderful guests, and Shannon is no exception. And this is coinciding with Shannon's latest book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life. And your first book is Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, right? And that's a wonderful book as well. It comes out this week. And she, yes, her book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, my quote is on the cover here. So there we are. We are both on this cover, and the cover is so beautiful. So congratulations on your newest book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I am so excited. And thank you for adding the quote. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, and I love your covers. So tell me about the covers. Inslee does them.
Yes, Inslee's been doing all the illustrations for the blog since 2011.
Wow.
And we did this one back in 2016 when I was redoing the blog redesign. And I said, I just need something that embodies more of everything that the Simply Luxurious Life is. And I do have dogs. So I said, hey, would you mind? And she has done so many of Norman. That's Norman on the cover, actually.
Uh-huh.
I have two dogs, but my other one's black, so he doesn't pick up as well. And he honestly doesn't care, I don't think, if he's
no.
He's
not going to be offended.
No, he's not going to be offended. And Norman doesn't care either, but he picks up so well on the screen, and she does a really good job with the dog part. So I really appreciated that.
Oh, and she did the illustrations behind you as well.
Yeah, she's done all the illustrations, the last book cover. She just is a talent that we just connected, and I am in many ways indebted to her, because I'm not an artist. I can write, but I can see an image in my head. But what I'll do is I'll send her a picture. I'll say, I kind of want this piece of that picture, and I want that piece of that picture, and I want the woman or the person or the scene to have this energy. And that's her talent. She just pulls it all together.
Isn't it amazing how some people just have a certain talent, and that, you know, because I cannot draw at all. I am terrible. I'm a terrible artist. But my sister is very talented, you know, and we're sisters. And it's so funny that one has that gift and the other one doesn't. It's just, it's
amazing.
Everyone has their own gift, you know.
Isn't that the truth? And I was actually talking with Inslee about this a few weeks ago. And she said, I think that's my gift. My gift is to be able to pull in what people envision and put it on paper. And I can attest that she's absolutely right.
Absolutely.
But it's finding what your gift is.
Right.
Because like you said, I know we all have it. I think that's important to know. We all have it.
We all have it. And so many women, they know what their gift is, but they're just too, you know, busy with life or work or kids or anything to take time to hone that gift. And, you know, that gift doesn't necessarily have to turn into a big career, you know, but it's just something, it could be a hobby or something that feeds your soul, right?
Right. And I think sometimes to add to that list, it's expectations. We get busy with doing what we think we should do. We keep doing what we're applauded for, but maybe we don't intrinsically have a lot of passion for. And so it's hard to shed that, because ultimately we have to search for what we feel good about doing, because then it doesn't matter if there's applause or not. And that's a lot of what this book's about is, yeah, you can get the applause, and that's great and that's awesome, but that shouldn't be the goal, because you have to thoroughly enjoy and feel passionate about what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. And I know so many people who have a demanding career, but they say, but they don't like it. And they say, I'd rather be doing this. I know so many people like that. And, you know, I even have a friend, and you go to her home, and her home is so beautiful. She's so talented at interior design, and she works in a totally different field. And I mentioned, I said, would you ever consider going into interior design or doing something like that? And she said, you know, that is my dream. I would love to do that. And I'm trying to help her. I'm like, well, I'm trying to get her to start a YouTube channel.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm like, you know, or a blog or something. And anyway, it's funny. So I agree.
And she probably needs someone like you to do that, because sometimes we don't trust what we're good at naturally, because we think unconsciously, I think we think, well, if I'm good at it, then everyone is.
And that's not true. That's her gift, right?
Yes, exactly.
I'm not that good at interior design, so yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I wish her well, and I hope she does step forward to do that.
I know. I'll tell her. Her name's Julie. I'll tell her that you said that. So I have a list of questions here that I'm just going to read so I don't, miss anything. But so your blog is very successful, very popular, and just people love your blog. So can you talk a little bit about blogging for us? So I have a few questions. How did you get into blogging, and when did you start?
Okay. So the blog began in late 2009. But I was thinking about this question, and, it was in 2007, I think, I started to read a financial or a money blog online. And it was before there was any advertisements, anything associated with blogging. And I remember reading it at my work during my lunch break, because I actually didn't have internet service at my house because I didn't think I needed it, number one. And I was busy with other finances, remodeling my house, and I just wasn't focused. So ironically enough, I didn't even have that kind of search engine thing going on at my own house. But that was in 2007. I mean, it doesn't seem that long ago, but that's
a long time. That's when I started my blog. That was a long time ago.
It was. And things were so different then. But I remember reading her blog, and you didn't get to know her intimately about her personal life, but you got to know her journey with money. And she would never talk about where she worked. It was always anonymous. And I remember the big thing was always be anonymous. People were really anxious about you. Remember that? So different from nowadays.
I know, where they show everything. Isn't that funny?
And I remember when she blogged for about 6 months, and I honestly can't remember the first name of the blog, but she left because she got a better job somewhere, and she was so excited about it. I remember thinking, I'm going to miss her, but I don't even know her.
Oh.
How does that? I mean, I started thinking just unconsciously, but that's interesting, right? But then, and maybe this is the case for some people, a year and a half passed, and I wasn't completely satisfied with what I was doing. I loved teaching, but something was missing. Some creative outlet wasn't being tapped. And I went to see Julie and Julia, like so many other people did. Uh-huh. And I thought, oh, that's the platform? Because I didn't have people around me who were doing that. I didn't have anybody who was online searching, reading blogs. Because blogs, David Leibovitz started his blog in 1999, if we want to start with blogging.
Wow.
I think you and I are kind of the second wave. And then
we are the second wave.
Would you call that? Okay, I was thinking about
I would say.
I didn't, for about 6 months' time, that just sat in the back of my head. And I started thinking, well, that's a way to at least express yourself. Who cares if anyone reads it? You just need to do something to get what's inside of you out, because you're not completely satisfied. And so I did that. And as you probably did as well, I blogged my brains out for 2 years until 2:00 in the morning every single day, every single day. It was feeding me creatively. It was fueling me. It wasn't draining me. And for the first time, I had something that I did that I loved, that I wasn't watching the clock. And it felt good, and it wasn't about money, and it wasn't about making it a job.
Right.
That wasn't even a thought in my head. I had a job. And I think a lot of that was a comfort and a gift, because I was able to completely explore what blogging was. And it's fun to kind of look back and look at how it's evolved, not just with mine, but just in blogging in general. I think is very interesting.
It is fun. I think everybody has one person that they followed and they said, oh, this is a thing, because I read Nadine Jolie's blog. She had a beauty blog. And she had a book too. And I didn't know what a blog was. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to try this. I had no intention of it ever becoming what it has become, Yeah. And like you said, I did it for a long time and nobody read it. And, certainly never thought that you could, make a living off of blogging,
I even had people scold for asking for donations. I remember there was one gentleman somewhere, because you search your name every once in a while, and this gentleman said, I can't believe there's blogs out there asking for money like this blog. And I got my picture up on his blog, not my picture, but whatever image I had used. And I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be asking for, I was like, okay.
Oh, well. I know. Yeah. I was talking about this with my husband the other day about, because the blogging and the YouTube world has changed so much. And I remember watching a video by Candy. Gosh, now I can't remember. I can't remember anything. But anyway, she's a very famous YouTuber, does makeup. And I remember she said, you know, you don't make anything on YouTube. I make pennies on ad revenue. And I remember thinking that and thinking, oh, okay, so it's just impossible to, you know, to do this. But things have changed, and because it is a job, it is a full-time job pretty much for many people.
Yeah.
And a lot of work, so much work goes into it. So I'm always fascinated by that kind of behind the scenes look.
It's interesting. What I loved about it was the camaraderie. I mean, that's how you and I met. I mean, when I found your book, but then I was like, oh, that led me to your blog. And then we started communicating. But I've met so many people and actually had the opportunity to sit down and have tea with them, you know, or different things. And it just amazes me. I feel very, very humbled and very fortunate. But it's all because I sincerely believe you start listening to something inside of you, whatever it is, you don't know where it's going to lead, and trust that your curiosity knows something that maybe you can't translate yet. I think it's a language we have to figure out how to translate and make sense, because like we were talking earlier, we all have something. We just need to figure out what it is. And if you would have told me blogging was a thing 20 years ago, you're like, what the heck is blogging?
Yeah.
You know? Like,
right. And I love the camaraderie too. And we have to mention that I was a guest on your podcast years ago. How many years ago was this? 5 or something? Or
first year my podcast, 2014. Yeah, you were one of my
4 years. Yeah,
yeah.
That's amazing. So yeah, we've known each other since then, and I know I love the camaraderie. So really quickly, what advice do you have for new bloggers? People, is it too late to start a blog?
No, I mean, for the reasons that I just shared why I began, I think you can, for those reasons alone, is enough. You need something, you need an outlet, you have curiosities you want to explore. But I think whether you want to try to turn it into a career or not, for your own sake, be consistent, whether it's once a month, once a week, once every day, or 5 days a week. Have a schedule so that if someone finds you and they connect to you, then they'll know when to expect your voice. And
I agree.
Don't you think? I mean, we have schedules with our postings. And I think for me, I'm a routine person, but I think it's like getting that magazine every week or every month, you know, or watching your favorite show every week. There's something to that. And I think the other part is to not choose a niche that's too narrow, but make sure the niche is general enough, but also sincerely what you're curious about and what you're passionate about.
Yes.
And if you do that, then you'll have content. It'll be infinite. And people ask me, the 2 questions I get is, number 1, how do you do it with your second job? And number 2, where do you get all your ideas? And I say, how could I not get enough ideas? I've been thinking about this since I was a kid, how to live this way. And I can't explain why or how that began. I just know that that's honestly intrinsically who I am. I'm seeking simplicity, but beauty and luxury that's not with regards to money, but with regards to living well. I've always been doing that, whether I knew what that was or not.
So what inspired you to write this book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life?
So good question. So I wrote the first book, and a lot of my readers said, I wish I would have had this book when I was a young woman. And I said to myself, yeah, I would have loved that too. And then my editor said, your next book, here's an idea. And I listened to her, and she's been in this publishing business for decades. And she said, your next book, if you're going to write it, should be about women who have already figured out the fundamentals and want to reach something more, something higher within themselves. And that's real. And because she could see in my writing, because we edited my first book, where I basically had 2 books after my first book edit. She's like, you already have a second book written. When do you want to start? I'm like,
I know. And these books are long.
I know.
The print is small, okay?
It is, and you really go through it piece by piece. I have people who will tell me I've reread this particular chapter, or I've just read this section again and again, and then I kind of go through a chapter in the order that fits their life at that moment. And that's really what it is. It's a resource. It's not a chapter you have to follow one after the other. You don't. But no, and she said that, and because she had been reading some of the other postings that I had written since I had moved to Bend, which was about 3.5 years ago. And I said, she's right, because I'm changing. I'm learning more things. And it's not because I have to, it's because I'm choosing to. And so it really came about organically. The readers wanted a second book as well. And I said, okay, I'll figure it out. I'll figure out a way to do it. Because I guess my thing is you don't necessarily get to pick and choose when you get to do what you do, I guess. I've never as much as I've done planner, I'm realizing I need to let go a little bit. And this book was less planned and more called for, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
And I think this is about every one of us figuring out our unique way of this journey to reach our full potential. And it will be unique to each of us. Just because we label it, or I've labeled it the Simply Luxurious Life, it's not just one way. Because I live it this way doesn't mean you're going to live it that way. Yours is going to be unique to your talents, your situation as far as your relationship status, your age, your job, whatever it is. And it's figuring out what that looks like. And it's a journey. It's a journey.
I think that your books hit a very important demographic because so many books, lifestyle books, target mothers because we need help. Okay. But there are other people who need help too. And it's really nice because your books also target women with demanding careers or women without children. So what can you talk a bit about that as well?
Thanks for asking that question. I think it's important for not just women, but I am a woman, so I speak from that experience, to understand that there are a lot of different ways to live well and to live fulfillment, to live a fulfilling life. I think part of what the mission statement is of Simply Luxurious Living is to let go of what society is telling us to do and to figure out what truly is innately within us and what works best for us. And that takes time to quiet society's voice, whether the society is the media, whether it's our family, whether it's the culture we live in.
Right.
And that's hard if what you eventually find is not in line with the status quo. Yeah. Because there's that emotional pressure and you kind of have to go away from the applause. And that's hard because it's human nature to go with the applause. That's survival ultimately. Yeah. But this blog is for women of all aspects of life, or people. I actually have men who will email me and students who are girls and boys who, since they've graduated, follow me. And I'm so thankful for that because this is about that. But for me, I can only model my truth. Right. And for my whole 20s, I have to say, I was trying to fit in to what society for me looked like having a partner. And yes, for me, it looked like having kids. And I tried to fit into that. I mean, I got engaged and called them. I've had, other marriage proposals, and I've had that conversation. Maybe I should have kids. I need to figure out how I need to make myself want to have kids. And that was my 20s, and it was uncomfortable. I finally hit my 30s, and that's when the blog started. I was 30 years old when the blog started, and I started just asking those questions. Why are you more content when you're not with a partner? What is it? What? Maybe you should explore that. Not to say that I can't be in a relationship with someone and be more happy than I am now, but for myself, from this truth, I have never been as happy with someone as I am without, and on my own journey exploring. I think part of that is I'm still figuring out what my true self is. Yeah. And it takes time. It takes time. Right. And the applause hasn't necessarily been there. And it took a long time for my family to realize, oh, okay, she's going a different route and we don't know what that route is. And now they've always been supportive. It was just kind of this confused, okay. Now
the slow clap in a different way.
Always love. It just was, it was new. And, there's women out there who are doing exactly this, living their own life, whether they're married or divorced or widowed or without kids. They're doing it. But I hope that this gives those people who are wanting to maybe try to do that to say, I can do whatever works for me, and that's okay.
Right. Absolutely. And it's funny, and I have kind of the opposite spectrum where we just had our fourth child, and we had a discussion about this before I started recording. And that's also kind of not normal in this modern culture to have 4 children, So I received there's a few things, after I had my third child, a reader had emailed me and said, I hope you're not going to have a fourth because the world is overpopulated. I don't know, she said something. And I was just like, wow. We all have choices in life. We all make our choices, and it's just our one life, So it's just the opposite of the spectrum where it's like if you do something that isn't, again, because I think in society, you get married, you have 2 kids, and then, that's just, everyone just expects that to happen. And if you do anything different,
I know
there will be people that will let you know.
It's so true. It's so true.
It's so true.
You build a muscle. I think I had to get past the point of being not angry, but becoming defensive and more be celebratory about it and say. And Amy Poehler has a great quote, and I'm sure many of our readers have read her book, but she says, "Good for you, not for me." And I kind of tweak it and I say, "Good for you and good for me, good for all of us." And I think if we become more supportive, starting with all women, of all the different ways we can live well, then we open doors not only for ourselves, but our children, if we have children, our friends, our nieces, and the whole world really sees, there's a lot of different ways that people can live well.
Yeah, there's just not one way. So I love that. And I love that. And your book really is for all women. So, but I think it's nice that, all different types of women can read your book and find something, and not just one specific type. So I like how you often challenge traditional cliches and traditional ideas. So I have your book here on page 154. It's so funny. I got to this and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Page 154, you argue that money can buy happiness. Now, I think obviously you don't mean money can buy happiness. And why everyone's going to be like, wait, what do you mean? But you just have to read what she says. So I thought I have to ask her about that one. It says 9 ways money can buy happiness.
Yeah. Well, there's been studies out there. I think it was a study in 2012 that said that there is a threshold for how much money a household can make where it does buy happiness, and then after this point, it actually stops. It doesn't matter how much more you make.
Oh, really?
In 2012, for American income, the household average was $75,000. And after $75,000, no matter how much more you made, it didn't matter. It doesn't make you more happy to have more money. But up until that point, to have your basics, to have your health care, to have food, and to have a warm home, and the basics to live well, fundamentally needed to be met. So that's where money definitely does buy happiness. But to further that point, I think we can buy time. We can buy time, whether it's to buy some time for someone to either clean our house or to buy, I did this in my previous house. I bought underground sprinklers, automated sprinklers, to save myself time in the summer so I wasn't running around the yard all the time, and I could enjoy my house and my yard without having, to every 20 minutes go out in the yard because it's really hot where I used to live. It could also be investing in knowledge and information so that you have the information to make the best decisions for your life, which ultimately will determine a better course for your life. Mm-hmm. It could be investing in your future for your retirement, but also investing in the charities and the causes that you care about to build or hopefully support the world you want to invest in. There are so many ways if we look at it, and it's not that, as you just said at the beginning, it's not you're going to go, okay, here's happiness for sale, buy this, it's going to happen.
Right.
It's investing in the tools and the time so you can enjoy what you love doing.
Yes.
And investing in whether it's an education for a career so you can sleep well at night, knowing you have money in the bank, because buying good food, taking care of your health, that is living a good life. And in America, buying good food does cost money.
Yes. It's so expensive to live these days. And I'm always marveling. The older I get, I can tell I'm getting old because I'm like, I didn't used to think about that when I was in my 20s. I would just buy this and buy that because, I'm going to be young forever, right? But now that I'm older, I'm like, what was it? The other day I bought, I wanted some PG tips, the English tea. And so I just went to the grocery store and it was $9 and I brought it home. My husband was like, $9 for
I did that recently too with butter the other day. I'm like, I'm not paying $4.99 for that same butter that I can get at Trader Joe's or somewhere else.
I know. Isn't that funny? So it really is. I also think, about stewarding the money that you have and using it well.
Exactly. It really is.
And you're right. And just not, being very thoughtful about how you spend your money because we all have different incomes and different salaries. And, especially with what I do, I never know what I'm going to make. I never know. Each year, at the end of the year, I'm like, oh, okay. I had no clue. When we're doing taxes projected for next year, our health insurance, they say, what are you going to make next year? I don't know. I have no idea. So I have to be very careful about what I spend. And I agree. And you do need money to not only live, but also, it's about how you choose to spend it, I think.
Well, and the one part about spending money, and this is a part that the new readers to my blog sometimes ask me about, and I say, wait a second, this is what simply luxurious living is. Simply luxurious living is living a quality life rather than a life of quantity, and that comes to how we spend our money. For example, in buying a big investment item that may initially look really expensive, but it's going to last for years. It's going to be performing at the level you want it to perform at for years.
That's right.
Buying it multiple times over, and then the stress that involves that and the time it takes to go to the shop, and it's gonna ease your mind, and so that's gonna lessen your stress. It's so multifaceted as far as smart purchasing. Doesn't have to be cheap. It just needs to be quality and what you truly need. And I think that's the good thing. Buy what you need, not what you think you should have.
Right.
And that also navigates some excess spending.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I love this part. So on page 254, you have a section called Be Productive. And that's the other thing. You have a lot of lists in this book that are very helpful to people. I mean, like about, food, about just everything. So okay. I really like the Be Productive part on page 254. Let me see if I can turn there. I marked it. Yeah, so you have a quote here that says, accomplishing something is one of the most exhilarating and assured routes to contentment. I agree with that. I really do. It's just, I love to be efficient and productive, and I feel very accomplished, even if it's just cleaning my kitchen at the end of the day. Something small. I have accomplished something.
Yeah.
And so to take comfort in that. So could you talk about being productive and how that relates to a simply luxurious life?
Absolutely. I mean, to that point, I think I sleep better at night when I know I've done something to further a project or to leave something more enjoyable the next day, like just leaving the kitchen clean after I've cooked a great meal so I can wake up, start the day fresh. But no, I think productivity, starting with knowing how you can be most productive, and that starts with fueling yourself well, it's what you eat, and also how you fuel your mind. What are you allowing to enter your mind as far as the media, the social media you're looking at, the news you're looking at?
Absolutely.
So that you can go through your day positive or with an attitude that is going to yield the results that you want. And I do talk a lot about the mind and how we can master it and let it be our student, or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to say slave, but just it will be something that'll be a tool for us to thrive. So that's the main thing. The first thing, I think, fuel yourself well, and then you can be more productive to do whatever you need to do. The next thing is keep it simple. I think sometimes we overcomplicate what we need to do to be successful or productive. And what I mean, why I share that, and I shared in the book that there are a lot of amazing apps out there, but sometimes you can get overwhelmed. I've tried a lot of different apps for to-do lists, especially, and planning. And I often find for me, what's best is simply paper and pencil and clarity, and just having a notebook. I always have a little moleskin notebook with me so that if an idea pops up, I write it down, and it's always there. So keep it simple. So ultimately, it's about working smarter, not more. And
yes.
that's
there's that book that, of course, I can't remember the name of. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'll try to think of it. If you give me some
called,
tips.
Oh no, I'll put it right here in words.
Oh,
what is wrong? I can't remember anything. I made a coffee this morning, and I couldn't remember if I put the pod in. And I was like, I just did it. I can't remember.
Oh, no.
It's a good book for productivity, and a reader had recommended it to me.
Okay, yeah.
So, yes, it was a bestseller.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, I love it. Yeah, you have fuel up, turn it off. Yeah, turn off social media. That's the thing. It is such a drain, social media. Yeah. I feel like I told my husband the other day, I said, I feel like I hate social media. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I really dislike it strongly, but yet I use it because I have to.
Yeah.
But it is so draining. And I read somewhere that it was designed, like Instagram, for example, to feel like a slot machine, where if you swipe up or swipe down, you get that rush. What's coming up next, And it's addictive, and it's such a time waster, I think. So.
Well, I think it's about mastering how. I read someone recently who said, you know what, for example, emails, check your emails just a couple times a day so that you're not sucked into just getting distracted. I do like social media for connecting with my readers. I do too.
I do like it for that reason.
Yeah, that's the reason I like it. I don't have any personal social media accounts, and I think that's been a lifesaver for me.
Oh,
and
I don't.
Good. I don't know. I don't want I like to have the intimate one-on-one phone calls or
Right.
face-to-face. And I could change it. I could go find a Facebook, get my Facebook account from individual.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
I have
do it.
I've been a saving grace, and I just didn't realize it until hindsight. But no, it can be a catch-22. I think it's difficult. You just have to manage
right.
it.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, let's end on this. And
okay.
I wanted to talk about your signature style. So because it's so unique for every woman, isn't it? And whatever, season of life you're in. So what is your signature style? How would you describe that?
Well, I will start off by saying it's evolving. I think all of our styles evolve as we go through our life stages. But for me, I like to do as much as I possibly can effortless. I like to be able to go shopping and not have to shop. So that capsule wardrobe that you talk about as well, very much so. I like having what I already need in my closet and knowing that I don't have to go shopping for that item because I already have it and I just have to mix and match. But then when I see that beautiful blouse or skirts, or I just saw a beautiful dress from Max Mara on the Outnet that was marked 50% off, and I still don't want to pay that price, so I'm saving it. I'm saving it when it drops. But it's like if I get that dress, I will love it and wear it, and it'll be timeless. So I would say effortless, timeless, and a little bit elevated, only because I feel more confident when I'm dressed up a little bit. Just a little bit. Nothing, and it's hopefully timeless, so it'll be something I can wear many, many years.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, I would just love to encourage everyone to go out and get Shannon's book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life. I will leave it linked below along with her first book and where you can find her. I'll leave her blog and all of her details below. And this was so fun. I hope that you'll come back and we can have a longer chat, in a few months. Would you be a guest again on the channel?
Love that. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So thank you so much, Shannon, for joining us today. I really appreciate you being on. And thank you so much for joining me today on the Daily Connoisseur. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.